The party.
Forgot to erase it.
What a great way to open a meeting.
So gonna replay last meeting?
Wait, this is working.
There's new batteries in it.
I just put it in.
Wrong button. Save as.
How's it going over there?
I have to hit record.
Okay,
All set?
yeah.
Okay.
All set.
I'd like to call the meeting to order. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Planning Board meeting for Tuesday, January 21st, 2014. Let's please begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So on our agenda this evening, we have our second zoning hearing per RSA 675:7, where we'll be discussing the last few items that we'll be bringing to public ballot. Over the past year, the Litchfield Planning Board has been working to understand Litchfield's residents' vision for the future of the community through a future land use mapping workshop, one-on-one conversations with local residents and business owners, and a community survey. Based upon what residents stated, the board has been working to update regulations to balance future opportunities to protect the town's agricultural character and allow for non-residential development in a way that blends with the community's character. Additionally, the board has been working to update regulations such as its bylaws and description of zoning boundaries, both last reviewed in 1989. We'll be opening the hearing. The procedure for this will be, board members will introduce an item. We'll have 3 items to discuss this evening. We'll take them one at a time. The board will hear comments from the public. To ensure that everyone has an opportunity to speak, we're going to hold a 3-minute time limit per speaker. Please be brief and to the point. Please avoid repeating what's already been said. Each member of the public who speaks must please state your name and address. Board members may ask questions, but we will not deliberate until the hearing is closed. The board may set a maximum time for all comments on a given item, although I don't believe we'll need to do that this evening. And if time permits, each person will be allowed a second chance to speak on a given item. After which, when we've gone through all of the items before us this evening, we'll close the hearing and we'll have deliberations on all the testimony and items before us this evening. That said, announcements. Following the Planning Board meeting of December 17th, at the hearing, the Planning Board adopted the bylaws and the site plan review regulation changes as there was no opposition to the language as proposed. Based on testimony on the draft agricultural overlay district, the Planning Board tabled its work on the draft and will not be sending it forward to the 2014 town meeting to allow further time for revisions. So that's tabled. Items to be heard this evening. First item up is the Aquifer Protection Overlay District. Minor amendments are proposed to the Aquifer Protection District to clarify existing provisions. The definition of impervious is updated to provide additional detail and examples, and has been further revised to incorporate comments from the December 17th hearing. Amendments unchanged from that which was heard in December include a reminder that a current use permit is already allowed for applications which will exceed 15% impervious, as added earlier in the ordinance. Lastly, the referenced zoning districts are amended to correctly cite the current zoning districts. And where did that? Okay, do we all have the Aquifer Protection District available and open, ready for review?
This is the Aquifer one. Over here, you want this one here?
Yeah, I go right down. I'm not concerned about this one so much. The color page, thank you.
So are there any members of the public who wish to give comment or testimony on the Aquifer Protection Overlay District at this time? Give folks a chance to
Yep.
read through and see if there's any concerns. Yes, sir. Please state your name and address for the record.
Kevin Lynch, 312 Charles Bancroft Highway. On the impervious surfaces, examples of impervious surfaces you could not live with. Roofs, I understand, are less designed, effective absorbing uninfiltrated water. Decks, patios, paved, gravel, or crushed stone driveways are considered impervious.
Jen, where did we come up with that? How did we, because I don't
Those are
recall the-
examples, and they're pulled from the Shoreline Protection Act,
Okay.
because they are effectively impervious.
My only question, how does that, like a stone driveway is not impervious? Paved driveways, or I can see that, something that doesn't allow the water to go through. Decks allow water through natural causes going down to an impervious bed, or a pervious bed underneath. I'm just playing the devil here, so when I see something come by or something like that, I want to say that it is pervious by design.
Gravel.
Gravel's and
Right.
Pervious by design.
I gotta say stone is pervious unless it's ledge, okay, or asphalt, something. I'm just bringing it up, I can make it work still, okay?
It ultimately, when it comes to your gravel, it depends on what
Layers
the,
and
what the
compaction.
construction profile is below that.
I understand.
Because you can end up with something that effectively is impervious,
I understand. Okay,
particularly your stone dust. You're using stone dust in the layer.
okay. Just make it work. Patio, of course.
Are there any
That's
other
it.
members?
I'm happy, thank you, I'll make it work.
Good, thank you. Any other members of the public wish to give testimony? Any comments, concerns, questions? All right, thank you. Next, we'll move along to the commercial transitional and commercial industrial zoning ordinances. The intent of the proposed amendments to the non-residential zoning districts, the commercial transitional and commercial industrial, is to promote development with a small New England town character and set standards and boundaries that match existing parcel configurations. Since being heard in December, several changes have been made, including added 3 new definitions, clarified that prohibited large regional shopping type uses are those with a footprint of 20,000 square feet or more, exempted agricultural uses from screening requirements, removed prohibition on automobile service centers as the use is allowed by special exception, and clarified that lighting standards also apply to signs and applicants must still comply with the site plan review requirements. That which remains unchanged from the December hearing includes a new section, 408, of the general requirements for non-residential uses consolidates all common requirements, which are in turn struck from the individual districts to eliminate redundancy, and adds new standards, landscaping, lighting, screening of unsightly features, to protect community character. Amendments to sections 600 through 1000 include reduced frontage requirements, 200 feet on routes 3A and 102, amend the permitted uses to be consistent with existing and desired development, expand agricultural uses, limit large-scale or more industrial uses such as vehicle salvage yards, and amend zoning district boundaries to reduce instances of split lot zoning and update parcel references to correspond to the current assessing maps. So that's our introduction to the commercial, transitional, and commercial industrial zoning ordinances. Are there any members of the public who wish to speak to that item? Yes, sir.
My name is David Doyle. I live on Rotterdam Drive in Litchfield. She's right in, basically almost in the district. And actually, it looks like it is in there. And my concern is changing it from commercial to residential. And then is that going to limit commercial use in that area as well? I'm just confused on that.
It would limit the creation of new commercial uses in that zone, yes. Jen?
So if somebody wants to,
We're looking at the multifamily here, just as a point of,
the overlay district, I'm sorry, am I
Oh.
talking out of turn here?
Are we looking at the next item?
we're
Next
on
time.
the non-resident.
Oh, I'm sorry,
Okay.
thank you.
Sorry,
Oh,
that's
never
why we're
mind.
confused.
That's Gilbert Avenue mistake, never mind.
Yeah.
Clara DeRocher, I just have a question. Northern Commercial, it says east of 3A, 3 parcels are at the intersection of Albuquerque and 3A. Currently in the commercial, industrial, and transitional districts are proposed to be added to the district. What is the purpose of that, and what would that allow to be built there?
That's just to maintain some contiguous zoning blobs on the map. Just trying to be consistent with what's in that zone already. And as far as what could be built there, whatever would be allowed in the district if passed. Any clarification, Jen? I stumbled through the question and answer thing. I understand, but don't explain well.
I'm just trying to scroll through it all.
Can you show us on that map?
Sure. We're bringing the map up on the Jumbotron.
Give me a second.
Every home has one.
See if this will work. Is that?
It should be on. Must have gone to sleep. There we go.
So, it's this here is the 3 parcels. This is actually one parcel here that crosses Albuquerque. So you've got this 1 parcel, 2, 3 parcels. And this is 3A here. Here's Albuquerque. And then Morgan Road. Here. So it's just pulling these in with that intersection along 3A.
So they want to change that to the pink, I'm sorry.
Yes.
Okay.
So in terms of the change and the difference of the permitted uses, it would be slightly less intense uses that would be allowed here because the orange is commercial industrial. So the primary concern was having potential for more industrial uses to be that close to 3A in that location, right at that intersection, which is a pretty prominent intersection. And so pulling that in to be part of the northern commercial district, which was the smaller scale commercial uses. And then the transitional here just simply was more a matter of having that, well, one, this is one parcel here anyways that's split, so just pulling it to be together.
On the other side, yeah.
So this map you actually have in the hard copy on page 3.
Can I suggest something for simplicity?
Sure.
Looking at the sections, Jen, I'm just thinking to the board, if you just went through each page, explain what the difference is, and what was proposed and what was not proposed for the general. Okay, I go to the next one on page, one of the multiple pages in this one. I want to say on the page road one, that was changed, that transitional to commercial. And then on the one up on the south end of town, just quickly, just a thought.
Sure.
Showing that what it was before, it was green, transitional, and making it commercial. That's basically the changes, correct?
This
Yeah.
trip.
Or if you get a big map of the town.
We did the small maps because it allowed you to zoom in on the specific changes.
Would you mind walking us through that?
Sure. So this is the southern end of Route 3A. This particular map splits on 2 pages. Again, just for the purposes of being able to zoom in and see the individual parcels. This is page 4 in your packet. So the specific changes here, you'll see the solid colors are the current existing underlying zoning. The hatched is the proposed. So on the western edge of 3A, there's a transitional district that exists, that is a thin strip along 3A. It creates a situation where there are many lots that have split lot zoning, where the front of the lot is zoned as transitional, but the majority of the lot is zoned as commercial. So the intent was to eliminate any confusion where that zoning boundary specifically lies, and to create harmonious districts where you've got, you go in, okay, as a property owner, this is what my property is zoned. Right now, you'd have this small for these folks along here, they'd have only this small portion zoned with one set of permitted uses and densities, and the rest of their lot zoned differently, and so would have to split their development as such. Also, for the portions that are zoned commercial along 3A, currently they're not allowed to draw access from, or they're not allowed to count their frontage on Route 3A as their frontage. So they would have to build a road into their parcel to actually be able to develop those commercial portions of the land. Similarly, on the east side of 3A, I'm going to start right about here at parcel 393. You've got a similar condition here where it's transitional at the front of the lot, again with frontage on 3A, then commercial industrial east of that. The proposed is to just bring the commercial industrial right up to 3A. And part of this is with the understanding that, is that contemporaneously with these zoning district changes, there's also increased provisions proposed for the front buffer, so having that vegetated landscape along 3A. And part of that went into the site plan regulations, and there's companion language proposed for the zoning ordinance. Then at the northern end of this district, where the greatest concern was creating that, where the transitional district truly had a use of separating the higher intensity uses from the residential districts, was to make sure that the transitional district was of a functional size, that it really allowed for more than just a sliver. And so proposed to eliminate the split lot here and just follow the parcel boundaries, following the parcel boundaries along here as well, but also to pull in these few parcels here as part of that larger transitional district. So that's the northern bit of the southern section of 3A. So similarly, at the southernmost segment, you've got, again, this segment of transitional district that borders, this is Route 3A along this line here, where the commercial district is proposed again to come up to the road, the commercial industrial district to come up to the road. Then this large parcel here at the southern end of town, this land is actually owned by the state of New Hampshire and is the parcel of land that the state retained for the circumferential highway were it to ever be built. Now, if that is ever to happen, we'd be lucky if it was 20 to 30 years out. Nonetheless, the intent was that if that is going to be more of a highway-like road that the state would create there, then the zoning uses should be consistent with that of a highway-type road. And so propose that this be part of the highway commercial district that's in that southeastern corner of town that this connects to, which is on the next page. So that southeastern corner of town, so you have here this green portion where that's the remainder of that state-owned land where it connects into the highway commercial district. Then what the board did is they looked at the western boundary of the highway commercial district and noted that it did not follow parcel lines. It just runs straight through parcels. So you have many parcels that are partially in the highway commercial district and partially in the residential district. And what they did is they followed property lines and roadways. So here you've got a segment here that follows the roadway, but the remainder follows property lines. So while it's a slightly more jagged line, it makes it, it's in practice or in theory should be clearer as it follows the parcel lines. The other proposed change here is in this little corner. There are several parcels here in the southeastern corner that are currently included in the highway commercial district. However, they're all residential properties. They all have frontage on Derry Road, and many of them it's just the back portion of the lot, where the front of the lot is actually located in Hudson and zoned as residential. So that proposed change was just simply to pull them out of the highway commercial, which means that then they would revert to being part of the commercial district. And there's one other teeny piece right here where it's currently the back half of an existing residential development that is zoned as commercial industrial. It's instead proposed to be part of the transitional district, which is the front half of the lot. There you go.
Thank you, Jen.
You're welcome.
Did a much better job with that than I could have.
Thank you.
Only because we had to draw it. Or digitize it, I should say.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
On that little section on Page Road, that's becoming transitional. Is that going to become a conflict? Because I guess that district all around them is residential, and then you have that little piece jutting out.
This right here,
Is that where the power lines are?
Yeah,
That's where the power lines were just about.
that, okay. It's also, that little piece is part of parcel 339.
Yeah, there's two pieces in there, there's 311 and there's, which is
Right.
part of that too, we followed that. And that there, in my understanding, and that's part of the power lines that's in there now. There's 150-foot strip through the middle of it. Okay,
I was just wondering about potential conflicts with the neighborhood later on.
yeah. it's
That's
in the
all.
woods. Yeah, no, Boston.
May I ask another question?
Certainly.
The green zone along 3A, I wanted to know if, in planning for this, because you're going to have an awful lot of activity out of that big lot whenever it's developed, is there any provision made for when this is developed, the frontage, that there would be certain setbacks for widening of 3A? Because we know that from neighboring towns, when you get a lot of commercial activity and a lot of residential, the road just can't take it at 2 lanes, and eventually they have to widen it. And I'm not saying you have to widen it right now, but maybe if all this develops, maybe in 10, 20 years, but if the frontage doesn't provide for that, then you're sort of running over people's doorsteps.
And that's why we have the setbacks that we have currently, so that there is that provision for future alterations to the road if necessary.
What are the setbacks?
What did we set it at
50 feet right
Look.
for residential?
now.
I can say road widenings have to go through for 3A would have to go through the 10-year highway process, and right now the emphasis is on maintaining existing roads, not in expanding capacity.
But I'm saying while you're planning this, shouldn't you think of that now because the land is vacant? And if you get around to this when everything is built up and they have parking lots close to the road, it may not even be feasible to widen it. And if you do, you're going to be into taking a property that's very expensive. So wouldn't it be prudent, I mean, thinking 10, 20 years ahead, that if this is all built up, you're going to have commercial and you're going to have a lot of residential to provide for that, so that whenever the state comes around, the land is dedicated, nobody is shocked by it, nobody says, oh my God, look at that, they devoured the whole landscape. Wouldn't it be better off to plan it for now, because you know what's going to happen, this stretch of road is going to become so encumbered.
Frontage was 200 feet, but isn't it the setback more than the frontage?
Yeah, that would be.
How far back you are from the road? I don't know what the setback would be.
You may even have traffic lights at the other side of the street that's about 300 acres of commercial. I mean, that could be a very busy place in about 25, 30 years, you know, maybe even sooner. It happens everywhere. Hudson had to go through it.
Front setback is 50 feet.
May not be enough, you know.
Kevin?
Maybe we can add to that, the common right-of-way is widened. The right-of-way that the state owns down that part, that section of Route 38 is 60 feet in some places. It's three rods plus, okay? It was odd all the way through there, and narrows it down. As for what Claudette is talking about, is the planning function. If you get something that's gonna go in there, as a planning board, it's not whether you can, your site plan regulations are gonna require green space in front, okay? I don't know what the minimum, I think it's a 30-foot setback on some roads now, but in your site plan regs, I'm trying to remember that from roads, but get into a development of that large parcel or something like that, there's gonna be a master plan that you're gonna ask for, and that you got such a frontage requirement there, so you're gonna take your curb cuts and you're gonna limit it. You're not gonna give them all the curb cuts, you're gonna look at the master of that. you're gonna tell the person that, okay, you own it, we don't want a lot of curb cuts, limit it, so that's what they do in larger developments of Jen, if you remember. You take that and good planning is taken it into place. It's not a zoning regulation, it's traffic study, controlling your traffic. And she's right, 25 years. Towns have done this where they've taken a strip of their road and say, okay, people own it, they're gonna come and try, no, you're gonna have to get together and work on your curb cuts. They've done that.
I think, you know, this may be one person may put in a little store, and then that person way up the street may put in something else. So you may have a master plan, but it's not all gonna go at the same time. Plus, you're gonna have turning lanes and stuff like that. So you're better off to ask for a little bit more deeper frontage and provide for that. And then you won't have to fight every site plan you approve, because some people might say it's not in the law and I don't have to do it. You're gonna have to pay me or fight you or all that stuff. But if they know going in what the rules are, then it's easier for everybody.
And every parcel of land along that road that the state has to grant you a curb cut for the use. So no matter if it's there, you're asking to take it. That's another story by itself. That's the planning design. That's not a curb cut issue. It's a planning design for safety. I agree with what she's saying.
No amendments.
I mean, I just think it's an unusual situation that in southern New Hampshire, you have such a big spread of open land that you can start from zero
250 years.
and not have to work around a lot of existing stuff. You know. So why not optimize planning?
No, thank you, it's a very good suggestion. Any other input?
Just have one thing about the whole project in general, is changing ordinances now.
Would you please state your name for the record?
David Doyle,
Thank you,
12 Rotterdam Drive.
thank you.
We have to be real careful about what the changes we make, because we can't just keep going back and forth and back and forth. They have to be definitive. You're talking about taking something that's somewhat commercially zoned or industrial zoned and changing it to residential. And 10 years down the road, somebody's gonna come in and they're gonna wanna maybe put something light industrial there, and it's gonna be a problem for them to do that. I just don't wanna keep flip-flopping, that's what I'm thinking about. So are you absolutely sure that you wanna take some of this transitional land and change it into a residential use? Even if it is what we need, because of the state has requirements for that.
Well, please don't
We don't
confuse.
have to overdo that requirement.
Right, but right now what we're discussing is the non-residential zoning amendments. Let's try to keep the issues separate.
I'm sorry, I apologize. That's the only reason I'm here, I guess, and I just
Yeah,
can't.
and most of this is done to get rid of the split lot zoning.
But, and that makes
And
perfect
that's
sense to me.
basically what all this was
Yeah.
for.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense to me. I see all the zigzag,
Yeah.
yeah.
At some point, somebody just said, we're gonna go from this point there in a straight line, and it cut people's lots in half.
Now that doesn't make sense, I agree.
So this is something that we're just trying to correct. Makes it easier for people, makes it easier for the tax department, because everything is set in stone.
Yes.
Margaret Berg, 294 Charles Bancroft Highway. I understand the ease of this for the split lots.
Yeah.
But I don't understand cutting the setbacks. I mean, if you're reducing them, I would think that you'd keep the higher footage setbacks if you're,
Well, not reducing.
and can someone explain that to me?
We're not changing the setbacks.
It's the frontage.
It's the frontage that's
Frontage
being
goes
changed.
across on the road, setback is how deep it is.
There you go.
So, yeah, so it's just, the setback is the same, it always has been for, how long?
Quite some time.
Decades,
Yeah.
probably.
Okay, so you're not changing how,
No, the depth from the road is still the same.
okay.
Jen, in comparison towns, is a 50-foot setback something that allows future, I mean, have you seen issues with towns that have gone through growth because of open space areas where 50 feet was challenging to deal with? Or is that a standard, I'd say standard setback for a town our size, but
50 feet's about standard, to, almost to the deeper setback. Some are more in the 30 to 40 range. So, but 40 I think is, 50 is right about middle of the road. More than 50 you rarely see. It's kind of an extenuating circumstance if you see more than 50.
so it's a fairly safe number,
And that's what you've had for
decades.
decades, so.
Is there any further public input on the commercial, transitional, and commercial industrial zoning ordinances? Moving along, the final item at our hearing this evening will be the multifamily residential overlay district. The proposed overlay is updated from that proposed in 2013 to better identify the overlay boundaries based on public input. Additionally, based upon comments received at the December 17th hearing, the district boundaries as proposed have been revised to incorporate parcels north of Page Road between Route 3A and Albuquerque Ave. The remainder of the proposed ordinance remains unchanged from that which was presented at the December hearing. The new multifamily residential overlay district is proposed to provide opportunities for development of multifamily housing as required by state law. As drafted, the ordinance requires any new multifamily construction to maintain the existing character of the neighborhood. The minimum lot size proposed is 2 acres for the first 3 dwelling units, with an additional 5,000 square feet required for each additional unit, and no more than 6 dwelling units may be permitted in any one structure. The proposed district boundaries are the residential and commercial districts north of Leech Brook, and the residential, commercial, and transitional districts south of Chase Brook and east of Route 3A to Albuquerque Ave, and then south of Page Road. And let's open that for public comment.
Are you gonna show us on the map? That's not just me.
So, in anticipation of your question, the multifamily district is an overlay, so it functions as an additional set of property rights that you have in addition to the underlying district. So the underlying district remains, and then where the multifamily district is applied, you are also allowed to do multifamily. The reason it's done as an overlay is because the district doesn't necessarily conform to any one of the underlying districts, and so in some cases it overlaps.
Thank you.
So that's the portion of the overlay. At the northern district, or the northern end of town, the area selected are those parcels here north of Leech Brook. It's predominantly residential. There's a small portion of transitional here and a small portion that's in the commercial district here, where you would also be allowed to create multifamily were this to be adopted. Similarly, at the southern end of town, scrolling, Similarly, at the southern end of town, the portion that was added since the last hearing is this segment here, north of Page Road, however, south of Chase Brook. This was based on some of the testimony at the hearing where someone had suggested including that land. That was through till Albuquerque, and then the boundary returns to Page, being south of Page Road. Essentially, it takes anything then east of 3A, south of Chase Brook up to Albuquerque, and then south of Page Road, and then north and west of the town boundary. And it would be any parcel that is where the underlying zoning is residential, commercial, or transitional. That said, bear in mind that there's at the same time proposed changes to those underlying district boundaries. So the overlay is tied to the underlying district. So if this strip here is no longer transitional, multifamily would no longer be allowed on this skinny little strip here. But where that transitional district gets a little larger here, it would incorporate those few parcels here. I can pull up what that looks like, what the difference is. The difference is 4 acres in the overall total. But I can pull up what that, if the non-residential changes were to be included on the ballot and passed, how that multifamily would
Yeah, if everything passes,
shift.
how does it all look?
Yeah, I can. You have to give my system a second for that. That one takes a few minutes to run, or a few extra seconds. The GIS data is a little bit data intensive, memory intensive.
It's a big data set.
Well, it's not normally this slow unless it's like middle of business hours via the remote connection, so this is a little.
Or I take a virus scan to run in the evening.
Oh,
Snowstorm.
Or you want it.
Yeah.
It's a couple of floods. That's all it is.
It's just because you want it to come up fast.
I know.
It's because we're all looking at you, that's true.
If we all close our eyes.
This is what you call high-speed internet. With my tortoise.
Yeah, if I could divert your attention to the other wall.
Here's
While
a
we're
piece of
waiting.
paper.
Is there any other concerns, questions,
Whiteboard.
comments?
We got 2 whiteboards.
Why is the district expanded beyond Page Road to Chase Brook? I mean, that wasn't really discussed at the, one guy got up and said, I own 6 acres, do you mind just pushing the boundaries over Page Road, including my land, which was kind of a nice thing to ask, but all of a sudden it goes all the way down to 3A and Chase Brook and goes right across Page Road, which before that, the line was a demarcation, there's Page Road and then there's agricultural land and then there's, and it was sort of kind of split up. Now it just overruns Page Road. Why was that done?
Well, only between Albuquerque and 3A, where it follows the brook.
Yeah,
That
but
was-
that's most of it, you know?
Same.
That's a whole lot of it.
Continuity with existing structure, isn't it?
My name's Steve Ducharme. I live on Page Road. Maybe I can clarify it.
Please
But
do.
I was here and I spoke to it before. But what happened is I owned 6 or 8 acres there. But across the street, there was developable land. So they were going to be able to develop there. And you would see it, but not be able to do the same with your own land. It was a reasonable thing to ask.
Basically, what you did is just follow the brook all the way up through as a buffer.
Yeah, it's a natural boundary that
The
that made
natural
it
line,
a
the
good
wetlands
place.
and everything, but you got a good buffer.
Yeah, but the people who live on Page Road, it's not a buffer for them. You're just gonna open all their lots all over the place there. they're gonna be surprised to find out that, you know, they've got their single-family house and in the backyard somewhere, somebody can put up multifamily, and I don't think they know about that. That was
The
not,
constraints of the ordinance, though, if this is passed, there are specific conditions. It does have to meet requirements. It's not just gonna be a Pagewood oval plopped down in the middle of a single-family
yeah, but
neighborhood.
why did you open it all the way? Why, if this gentleman wanted 6 acres, I mean, it's nice to get up and say, I do this for my lot, and the other guy says, do it for my lot. But you just went overboard, like the whole strip, and all the way over Page Road and all the way to the brook. Plus, we don't have municipal sewage, and you're gonna have to rely on, you know, septic fields for these and you're gonna be near the brook, which is a major drainage basin. Why do we wanna do that? Why do we wanna risk bringing a lot of potential drainage problems? Because septic fields only last so long before you have to relocate them. So why are we doing that? Why don't we leave it where the lines were? It was a natural separation, it was working fine. And all of a sudden, it's way the heck up there, which was already developed anyway, most of it.
I think it'd be more continuous if you change it, because otherwise, to his point, you could have a road or one side of the street has multifamily, the other side of the street has single family.
Yeah, but supposing the people on the other side of the brook say, now I'm looking apartments, so I'd like to have my land zone, and first thing you're up to talent. And, I mean, you know, you just can't
Multifamily
zone.
has to be allowed somewhere in town, that's the whole
I
premise
know,
of the
but you have
exercise.
quite a bit of acreage over there. You have, and
A lot
at
of
the
the acreage
north
too isn't
end.
big enough to really put in multifamily, is it? Jen, from the requirements that we have?
Pardon?
Isn't a lot of those lots not even big enough to include multifamily because of the requirements for it?
It's a minimum of 2 acres, yeah. I got files trying to open and thinking.
And what is some existing homes in the neighborhood? Is it all single family now?
There's a lot of single family, but just, I mean, don't pay too close. This is rough calculations. And this is, mind you, this is in both the south and north end of town. You've got a total of 21 parcels. So in that really large area at the south, plus the area to the north, you've got 21 vacant parcels and 3 agricultural parcels that have enough land for residential development, for multifamily development. You've got another,
So I can have them here, for sure.
another 45 parcels that are vacant but do not have enough minimum acreage to be eligible.
Yeah, but they come in for variances. You know how that goes?
But if they're too small and they've got septic, they're not gonna be able to do it because they're not gonna have enough land area to meet their septic loading requirements. That's the other side of it.
Well, how many, I know it's hard to calculate right now, but how many potential apartment units, if all of this goes through, could somebody build? Different people, not the same person, but, you know, here and there. What are we looking at? 200 apartments, 100, 54? What is it we're talking about?
If every parcel available,
That meets the criteria.
right.
A lot of examples here.
right, if every parcel available that meets the minimum lot size criteria were to be developed to their maximum potential, you could have a total of, now again, bear in mind,
Doesn't look at wetlands, does it?
we deducted wetlands, so we started with raw numbers, we deducted out wetlands, steep slopes, a couple other natural constraints, roads, surface waters, conservation lands. We deducted that out. Now, bear in mind, though, that doing this as a spreadsheet model assumes that that acreage is contiguous, which, if that acreage is not contiguous, these numbers are not even remotely feasible. So these numbers are absolute maximum, with the assumption that it's contiguous and that someone even wants to build multifamily. The other consideration to bear in mind is the state of New Hampshire parcel is 98 acres, and that is the largest share of any of this land. So that parcel alone has a total possible number of 33 structures, or 33 6-unit structures, which would equate to 198 units, just on that state of New Hampshire parcel.
Excluding any physical wetlands and everything.
That's excluding the wetlands,
That, oh, okay,
but that's a really generous,
high number.
exactly. And that's the problem with doing spreadsheet calculations of your development potential, because it never reflects the actual potential to develop the land. So not counting now the state of New Hampshire parcel, there's another 23 parcels total, that could support 109 structures of varying sizes, for a total of 646 units. Again, this assumes that that land area is contiguous. This assumes that you can develop to that maximum density potential. This assumes that there's the market demand for the construction, and that you've got a willing landowner and a willing developer. So there are a lot of assumptions that go behind those numbers. So in reality, the numbers aren't what you would see.
Does that include the hatch marks, right,
Yes,
along Page Road and all that stuff?
Yes.
And this,
yes.
that includes everything?
It includes everything that's in the hash marks in your handout, those calculations.
You're talking almost 700 apartment units, not buildings.
109 buildings,
109 and 646.
646 units, right?
646 units.
But the market would never bear any of this.
No,
It's
but
not
I'm
even
just-
market, the land will bear it.
Yes, sir.
David Doyle, 12 Rod Dam. What is the state looking for numbers? What do they want from us?
For numbers,
We are supposed to have so much available or something for the,
A reasonable and realistic opportunity.
oh, okay, so
It's a good number.
that's way too high for that.
Are we overdoing it? Are we just going kind of like off the deep end here?
I can't foresee somebody, a builder coming in and saying, oh, good, I can put 109 buildings in.
Anyway.
And it's not gonna happen in this
Well, it
area.
may not happen overnight, but he may buy this big parcel and hold it for the
They're
future.
not one big parcel, it's all different parcels.
Slab.
It's not one, it's
State highway owned.
there's the state highway one, yes, that's a big parcel. The rest of them are split over. There's one here, one there, one there. It's just we have to say what areas it could be done in. Not saying it will be done.
But once it's zoned that way, that's it, you know, you can't go back.
It's an overlay, it's not a zoning.
Yeah, that's the overlay thing.
That's,
That's a key.
That's permissible. You don't know where you're going, suddenly you have a vacant lot down the road.
Kevin Lynch, 312 Charles Bancroft Highway. The purpose of this is to provide some space for something to be done in the future. Jen, your analysis on numbers are numbers, okay? Statistics are statistics. Land use in the area, I know what's there. I know what's available for wetland delineation. Then you got your buffers. If you get into a planned residential development, you got extreme buffers on that regulation now. and
Those
that
buffers
present-
aren't calculated in here.
Right, but if you extract my wetlands out of it, one vernal pool's gonna kill it, okay? And we know we're gonna find those,
The
okay?
buffers themselves, when they take off like 5-10%?
Yep.
Basically, at least that. You take out the,
There's 60.
there's individual lots all the way through there. There's some that you have in there that you can't even consider to be used because they're already calculated in another load. For the elderly, there's two of them there. There's one on Cutler, and there's one on Page, and then there's Arbor, okay, which is off Cutler, there's two off Cutler. There's Lodge, there's another 30 acres there involved, I think there's close to 70 acres. When you figure out the land around it, that you can't do anything with. So the numbers here, I know what Jen was trying to do, was trying to get it together as a number and all the land areas, but the actual, they've already taken up, a lot of these things are taken up. Okay, they're already earmarked, they're already done. If the town changes the zoning and allows something different because they put in municipal sewer, that's another subject matter down the line, okay? We can't even figure that. Sewer load, okay? There's only so many units per acre, so many gallons you need for a 3-bedroom house is 22,000 square feet of land area you need for subsurface, okay? And Litchfield's got good soil for leach fields. It's very good. There's nothing really gonna hold it back. But on the other hand, you take a 2-acre site or 1 acre, you still have to, you won't be able to get it because you're gonna have other reasons. There's gonna be other reasons. There's gonna be the house, there's gonna be another house. There's wells, most of those up there are on wells. So you're gonna consider buffers there we can't consider as a receiving area. So your leach fields are well restricted. I'm not a fan of this whole thing as a whole, but as a logical approach, this is the best way to do it right now, in my opinion. It's a start, come back, refine it, and we see some issues, but it's a start, okay? We are obligated by reasonable provisions by statute, okay? I did the statistical analysis, you have that, what we got on existing multifamily. Okay, build the buildings in use, you have that. We really have very little for a population of 8,000, very little. Okay, we have to provide some type of it. Now, the term multifamily, we say in our regulations, 6 units, garden style, we don't even get into that. They could be townhouse multi. You gotta understand it, they can be 2-family, considered multi with a common area, multi, it's a different term. Everybody thinks of multifamily being the apartment, page with oval or something like that. Not always that. Okay, that's where the stigma is. It's right there, guys. Everybody's gonna see it, says multi. They're gonna think of that. But that's not always what it is. You can take side-by-side condos, 3, triplexes, quadplexes. You're gonna need water if you do anything in the first place because you gotta put in a sprinkler system. The state law, our legislature has said 3 units or more requires fire suppression now, period. So there's gonna be the tank, they're gonna want to bring in the water. It's just a reasonable approach to it. So you're somewhat restricted on your density, okay? A lot of it. It's not like taking a 1-acre lot back in the day. You see on like the old part of Louise Drive, we just drew a line, and drew another line, and they're all square, they're all sloped different, and we got wetlands, some don't. Those days are gone. If you look at our lots through this town, there isn't nothing straight. There isn't a road that's straight. It's always going around something that's wet, okay, or unusable. And there's a lot of open space in there, little wetland pocket stuff that can't be included. It's not the best, but it's something. That's how I feel about it. You can't get the best till at least you get your feet wet the first time. That's all, it's a start. Thank you.
Thank you.
Or if you want to see what happens when state comes in and says this is the way it's going to be, I've been there on a court case or 2, okay? We lost nicely, with dignity, I will say, but we lost, okay? You can't, some things you just can't prevent.
Right.
Okay?
Thank you. Yes, sir.
John Regan, 9 Chaseburg Circle. So Kevin,
Yes, sir.
if Jen's numbers 600, 700 are mathematically the mathematical extent,
Mathematically on it.
what is your practical opinion of likely units?
I can say you can drop that by 65%, those numbers or more,
So 250.
okay? At the
253
max.
tops.
Yeah, at the max.
Units.
Units. And that's spread out to the whole thing.
And that satisfies the state.
Oh, yes, no problem at all. Because you've done something to show that you're gonna do it. If the land does not carry out what it can, or what you think you can get, doesn't mean you haven't tried, okay? You've done something. If we can only get 100 units out of this whole thing at the max because of different restrictions, as many of them are gonna apply, we've done something. We showed that we've done something. Most of the north end is an example. It shows a big section up there. you can't increase the density anymore. There's only, I think, 2 parcels of land in the whole north end that would meet anything out of that whole bunch. And that's the lot before Temple Drive, where the Huss Farm is, and the lot beyond Temple Drive, which is belonged by people who own Martha's on Main Street. Across the street is done. Those are owned by the old
folks.
The old folks, okay? I say,
Go ahead, Kevin.
I will admit to that too, I'm old, okay? They are there. They tied up that whole north side, okay? So you won't be getting, it looks like this, we zoned an area. That's it. I got an 18 unit on 4 acres of land. That's been there since 1967, 68. So somewhere around there, so it's just the way it is. So all I'm trying to say, the board is trying to meet a obligation that statute is requiring us to meet. The term multifamily is a term that everybody hates. Okay, there's no doubt about it, okay? But everybody lives in one, or had lived in one growing up, or want to go back to it. Whether it's a condo, multifamily, or rental. It's the way it is. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you. Does that answer your question?
I got another one though.
Sure.
So, I just want to reiterate what I think I just heard you say. So on the northern section, we've zoned it, but we've applied the overlay, but there's not a lot of practical use.
Not a practical use, not
For the southern overlay, there's a mathematical extent, but practical use is about 300 units.
It's limited, very limited.
And the combination of the two still satisfies the state requirement.
In my opinion, being in zoning as long as I have, I think we've done something to show that we are compliant.
If it was just the northern section, here we've zoned it, but there's nothing usable, I'd say that the state would say, you stop.
Yeah, it's not reasonable, okay?
Okay.
So, it's a matter of,
It's a matter of who's using the term reasonable.
and that could be anybody.
Do they take into account any of the existing multifamily that's not on here?
For these calculations, no. Just
Yeah.
vacant parcels.
Just as an example, most of them are in the zone in question.
Yes.
They're already existing.
But
in the
not all of
present
them,
zone.
though.
Probably about 9 to 10. Carney Court's the only one that's the odd duck. Okay? That's next to the school.
But that wasn't enough units to satisfy, you still need the overlay.
Yeah.
Because the state would say that's not enough.
Well,
Exactly.
the state doesn't take into consideration your existing housing stock when referring to multifamily.
Okay.
So for multifamily, what the state law calls for is that it has to be feasible that a developer could walk in the door today and submit an application for multifamily.
And that's what this whole thing exercise basically is what we're trying to get.
And if it's not passed, they could put it wherever they want, where they could sue the town, which would cost money, which they would probably win eventually.
And that
And it would
has,
go wherever they want to put it, whoever has 100 acres open, or 50, or 20. And
And
we have
then
no control how it looks.
and that has happened in towns. Wyndham had that happen. The big builder took them to court and won. They turned out beautiful buildings, but it's not where the town wanted them.
And again, I'm sorry.
So you got 3 months to sell this. That's the biggest problem, is getting it by the voters. It's just, it doesn't get anywhere. It doesn't have any legs.
That's the promotional part up front there.
Yeah.
I've done my plug.
Understood.
that's our next homework
I've done my
assignment.
plug, okay?
That's the next homework assignment.
Yeah, it's a big one, and you don't have much time, right? What is, it's in March already.
And we're happy to take suggestions if there's anything that you
Change
think
the
would help
names
us.
somehow. Like he said, it's that multifamily thing that's killing it.
Unfortunately, that's what the state requires.
The overlay thing really needs to be brought out in the open so that everybody understands that. Up until today, I didn't understand that. I thought they were changing the ordinances completely so that they weren't, it was irreversible, and then 5 years down the road, somebody comes in, they want to do something, then we got a flip-flop, and they're gonna just get whatever they want, because
That's a very good point.
the lawyers are gonna say, these people don't even know what they're doing. They keep changing back and forth and back and forth. Nobody really understands, I don't think, about that, what transitional zone means. it's the other stuff is still underneath, it's just,
It's an overlay.
it makes me a little nervous because now, 400 feet away from my bedroom window, they could put one of these buildings. And I don't, I'm not really concerned about it, I don't think it's.
That's why I
probably-
encourage you to read the rest of the ordinance, where we have the performance standards for what the building.
Nobody's gonna sit there and read that, that's what I'm thinking.
So as we sell it, we have to make it,
You have to sell it in a,
I mean, can't you use
a
your
short
public
version.
television media to sell it, to have somebody get on there and have it explained in layman's terms of what you're actually trying to accomplish?
Yes.
Because
yes.
I'm educated and I read this and I was just kind of like,
By the way, I'll swear she's very.
But I think when people see the overlay district going into established neighborhoods, it makes them nervous. The north end say that,
But
we put it there, but we know they can't build anything. But the people who own houses up there, like Corning Road area, and they've been there for a long, long time, that was one of the first tracts of land to be, built up. They look at that and they go, oh my God, look at that, my neighborhood's zoned for apartments, and then they see a meadow over there and they think, oh, they could put it right over there, and that's what makes them nervous about that. When it's the land over there, it's not developed, it's kind of like, it doesn't affect anybody. They might go for that, they might say, well, it's a lot, but hey, it's okay. But then when you say, go over Page Road, well, people in Page Road are gonna look at that and go, that makes me nervous, they're not gonna think about this underlay and overlay and all this stuff. They're gonna just say, somebody's gonna have a vacant lot and that's what's gonna happen to it. So I don't know if it's a good thing to just overlay existing neighborhoods that are defined, that are already defined, and just don't worry about it. Well, I don't know. I think somebody's gonna worry.
if you cut out that section on the overlay of Page Road and just did it from Page Road over, what kind of acreage do you lose and how does that affect your reasonability standard that the state's looking for?
I mean, this section here, north,
Yeah.
the bit between Page and Chase
Part
Road.
you were talking about?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Well,
it's not as threatening, you say, well, if I have to sell my house.
Parcel numbers act.
If I
There's
have
the
to-
road, the side.
Yeah,
but just remember, even though this is an overlay,
There's not
you
much
could
up
still
there.
have the same problem where we put in a multifamily unit and right next to it is single-family housing
Yeah, both of them.
going
You
in.
allow them both.
So it's not something that's just the existing houses. You can have a multifamily and a single family on each side of it, or in front of it or in back of it, as you have now. It's,
Yeah, but now that makes it possible,
No,
whereas
it's-
before,
it's always possible.
before
Just
that you
as-
can't, you really can't zone for one
Maybe if I
acre.
explain what's there and land use and stuff is available. You got one piece here,
Yeah,
used
you
to
got
be
one.
pits owned by parents. Everything around here is 1 acre. This is a 2
Developed.
acre lot, couple in here, this is brook and marsh.
The rest are developed along
This
the
piece
road.
is all developed, there's a chunk right here, it's developed, owned by this gentleman here, he's got a couple of apartments. Everything else is all taken care of all the way through, doesn't meet
All
any
developed.
requirements. You get into this, on this side of the street,
We could say an Arborwood's got 30 acres on the other, on that side.
Yeah,
right,
430.
St. Almond in here does, okay, but there's a large wetland there. If it's only about 150 feet off the road, you hit the wetlands, and that's all around Chase Brook. We in the town own this other piece that's big right here, okay? So, we're not gonna sell it, plus it's wet, okay? On this side of it, this is part of this piece in here. Yeah, they may do something here, but you got the wetlands and some pools in here, that's another study all by itself.
The well's right in there too, isn't it?
The Weinstein well is back in this area right here.
Okay.
So nothing's gonna happen in this area at all. Because that's all protected radius, is 400 feet. A lot of this is taken care of, gone. Down through here, there's some pieces in here potentially that may get it in the back. But this piece in here, where Blossom Court is, this is all gone. You can't do anything with here. So it looks like a lot. Wilson's got this farm here. We've already been told he's not doing anything but farming. That's Wilson today. Whatever the future. And you got Mr. Bergeron Estates and all through here. There's some land back there, but again, there's some large wetlands back there too. This buffer in here, Rotterdam around your house, the town owns these lots right in here in the first place, right on Rotterdam.
No, all around me.
Yeah, we own all those little individual lots, so I don't think we're gonna give those up unless they're looking for cash flow. Okay? That's another issue by itself.
And they're not great lots.
And they're not great lots. Now, I remember the subdivision. So there really isn't a lot. This thing here is all taken up because of Fernwood, elderly, this whole thing. You can't do much. The chunk in here, there's a house lot in here, there's a house in this one. And this one here, there's nothing you can do with that, and again, built out max now. No, it's got a high density, higher than anything else. Anything in Cutler is all built to small lots. This chunk of land in here, it's all maxed out, can't build no more on it. Because the Litchfield over here sets over here. Okay? The only piece really is this one, that was zoned from commercial last year to residential, now we're allowing something back on it. These lots in question, you see right here, you can't build on it.
Yeah, those don't really exist.
Okay? It's an old subdivision that was recorded, and that is owned by Leon Berry right now, that whole thing. Ducks live there.
It's a swamp.
Okay, that's all it is. Cutler Road is maxed out. We have 4 units, 6 units in this area now, that are in there now. And over here, we got the park and a few other things. These are all single-family homes. These are not being built. There's no road there. Looks like something that's a recorded plan that goes to nowhere. Pagewood Oval is back here now. It's actually the only one that's going to actually match what is there. Okay, that's the only one. And that's higher density than what we're allowing now. I think they got 18 units on 4 acres, okay? And at the north end of town, on that piece, you want to go to that one. I'll just give you a scope of what's available. Yes.
So would you say that in this area, the smattering of available lots for multifamily is random? It's random scattered?
Random and scattered.
It isn't
You
one
won't be able to
section?
get where, you won't be able to see it.
And it doesn't, that doesn't have like power lines or any of that kind of stuff in there.
There's only one area that does have power lines, but it takes up very little of it.
Yeah.
But it's right
And no
to the field.
easements or anything else? It's gonna limit it even more?
Well,
Well radius.
why complicate your sales pitch by putting it over like on,
Not selling, I'm just telling you what's there.
on Page Road when you don't think it
Show
could be
reasonable, that's
possible,
the state.
Thing is, more or less, that's all it is.
you know?
This end of town here, this is the horse farm, okay, that we all know and love. That's where the main power lines go through, large swath through that land, goes to a large angle of that. So you can't do anything underneath that, most of it along the road,
About Thoreau's land just to the south.
okay? Pardon me?
Thoreau's land, just where your finger.
I was going down here, the other piece is right here. This is across from, those who know where Fran Smith lives, okay, it's across to there where the old barn was. One of the last barns they burnt down was there, okay, in town. But that's that piece. We, the town, own this chunk.
No, that's
We-
Thoreau's piece.
No, this is the roads, this is us here, because this is, Moore's Falls back in here. This piece of land is the only open chunk of land in the area right there. Everything else is taken care of and built on. This is, oh folks, this whole chunk right through here. There's an 18 unit there, there's a 4 unit, 2 more 4 units are in here now. So there's multifamily in this sector now. Down in here, I can't get 2 acres unless somebody buys and knocks down a house and does something else. You know? I'm just telling you what's there and what's available that I can see.
So you think with all those constraints, it's gonna satisfy the state?
I think it's reasonable.
It's better than what we have now.
The state can't make you give them land available for this that's not there. And the reason that some of these areas is just one big area, we're not gonna go in there and make a circle here, a circle here, a circle
Right, you
here.
can't, yeah.
It's the area where the overlay is.
So
Makes it a lot easier than having 30 locations.
No, we're not making this easy.
We're not making it easy for builders to come in and build multifamily.
No.
We're just saying, if you have an interest, come look and
Yeah, the
look in these areas. Don't look at- don't
You don't
look
have to
anywhere
make it
else.
easy, you just
But
have to make it reasonable.
inversely, if they wanna come in and build, and we don't have this,
Yeah, got
They
it.
can
they
go
can go
wherever
to
they
the courts and
want.
build anywhere they want.
I've had, my experience, I've seen a town or city, towns in most cases that have urban compact areas, we don't. We're definite in the definition of the word sprawl. okay? Think about it. But we don't have an urban compact there. I've seen areas where they've taken down some older homes, they were tightly packed, okay? And built something else that's better, because the other houses were dilapidated, okay? And they combined it and changed it, but I don't see any opportunity of that occurring here.
Like Annandale, you took down a house and you put the 55 plus behind it because there's a long stretch of land.
Yeah.
So you have one single family house in the front of a very long strip you couldn't access, so you take that down and you build a whole development.
There's many functions here.
Do you have pictures of the houses?
Yeah, I do.
That are in here?
Can I get it? Yeah, they're in there as well. This
Those are
is,
multifamily housing.
Oh, I know.
they're affordable multifamily.
Affordable. It's,
Doesn't mean that someone's gonna build those.
Right. Yeah.
no, but we do have the provision in town to say what they're going to look like.
And that's what,
That's what we'll.
That's in the site plan regulations.
Yes,
we can control the look and feel of it.
so that it will match
To
the
a degree,
community.
No McDonald's.
as best of our ability.
We had a site up country that was faced with this, and they took down a farm that was falling down. They took photos of it, completely raised the building, rebuilt on the original foundations of footprint, and in the barn and the house, they have 6 units. If you went up to it, I've been there, you would not know that it was multifamily. Because the way it's done, like where the barn doors are, there was a door set into it, that was somebody's entrance.
You've got the same.
The front door of the house was somebody's entrance. On the side was another entrance. On the outside, it looked like the old farm.
Worth mentioning that multifamily isn't just apartments. Multifamily could be high-end luxury condos. Yes, sir.
John Regan, 9 Chasebrook. So what is your plan to make sure this passes?
Public outreach events like this, a similar pitch at deliberative session,
The standard stuff.
the standard stuff.
But that's not working.
That's
It hasn't worked for 20 years.
Exactly right. So,
I remember this from 1989 or 90, we were talking about this.
Well, we may take a lawsuit from someone who wants to come in town. If you want to take a lawsuit, then it's more likely to pass afterwards.
Well,
when
that's-
it's too late.
Not
Yeah.
good, is it? That's not
No, I'm
a
just
good way to
saying,
look at it.
we have events that very few people show up to. We'd love to see more people. And it's usually the same people that go to everything. And of a town of 8,000, it's the same 30.
So you're just going,
People.
throwing your hands up in the air.
Well,
No, I'm just saying,
it's the same 30 people that control the town, but then there's still 5,000 people that vote.
exactly.
Right.
And
how do you
and they
make
say
those 5,000?
multifamily, no, I don't want multifamily, then it fails.
Exactly.
Getting up at the deliberative session, if I get up there at the deliberative session and spoke the way I spoke here tonight, which I
Would
really
you?
have a problem because it's reasonable,
okay,
okay? There are those who are gonna
Kevin.
throw stones at me. Frank, you've been up at the front of the podium, you've ducked over the years. No matter if you think you're right or wrong, you guys are gonna have to get up and do the same thing. I know I can tell you what the land uses are, and what the high potential of what it's gonna be. Okay, I can go onto the wetland map and say, whoops, and take out a portion of that already. And knowing that if we do a high intensity, something else is gonna change, but in most cases, it's gonna be worse. Okay? So I think, guys, you've gotta promote it, like Mr. Regan is saying here. I think the proposal you put forth is reasonable to handle the logistics of the legality. The reality of what's really there is what needs to be described, what's available. Whether you go one side of the brook or the other side of the brook. We have open space conservation development regulations now. We'll allow 2 units per acre if I went with a PRD, planned residential development,
Yeah, maximum, but you have to have
20 acres of land and all this
offset
consideration.
there.
Right. We may have a couple parcels that may meet that even with single-family development now. Or it could be a planned residential development in your regulations, which can be, you may group them, cluster them, similar to what you've done with the elderly, which you've had clusters of 3 and 4 buildings together. Or if they're tighter. So your multifamily is a question of how you want to look at it.
I mean, I think personally that what got my attention was the one-page flyer that came, I don't know if that was in the newspaper, if that was in my mail. Was that in the newspaper?
The HLN, was it?
Yeah. the
Right, but
last
how many
website.
people get that newspaper?
Everyone.
Everyone gets it.
Who
I mean,
reads
it-
Thumbs up, thumbs down.
Yeah.
It's the only way I know what's going on in town.
That's where, that's where you have to put it, thumbs up,
But I
thumbs
mean, that's
down.
what got my attention, but it didn't explain, it got enough for me to want to read more. The website led me to all this literature, which totally didn't get me at all, you know. Fortunately for Kevin, being the neighbor. So I'm not really sure what the best venue is for you to get the word out, but
The newspaper stuffer worked and got your attention.
it got mine, but not everybody reads the paper.
Right.
I think it's
We need multiple avenues.
I think it's also subject matter that's difficult to assimilate, you know, the terms and
When
all
it's
the
not your thing,
restriction, and
Yeah.
it's a lot to absorb.
Mhm.
I find it hard to absorb.
Even if you can simplify it a little bit, just the saying, if we don't do this, then the state can do this.
Yes.
Did that one-page flyer say that?
Yeah.
That's been said for years.
Yeah.
Maybe we need to say it more clearly
Examples.
in bigger letters.
When the use cases, what happens when companies, towns like when.
Do you have examples from, yeah, show examples from other
Because
towns?
they didn't do it, this is what happened, and
Yeah.
this could happen to us.
I've talked to people in town about that, and the response was, but that would never happen here.
No.
We're a different type of town. It would never happen here.
Now, how do other towns do this? I mean, like, I read Amherst is doing this, and Hollis, which is very restrictive, and Londonderry, I don't think has a problem, because they're kind of, Milford doesn't.
They have plenty of.
Yeah, they have plenty of
Too much.
apartment houses already, and Pelham, I don't know, and Wyndham, how do they take a specific parcel of land, say, right here, that's it, you know? Or do they do like we did, or how do they handle that?
They've all been fighting it for years, like we have, and trying to get it through. Some of them have done it the hard way by having a lawsuit. You mentioned Londonderry. Right now, there is over 1,000 units
Yeah, they're in.
going in. Right down by the exit 5, there's probably about 900 going in there.
That's one, there's two areas.
There's two areas at
Where
that
they,
location.
where they
and the
just
other one at the orchard.
rezoned, where they just rezoned that.
Yeah, and the other one up at the orchard, which is gonna be spectacular from what I hear,
Noise Road and up in that area.
because it's supposed to have a
It's,
community center and everything in there, that area.
Oh, God, not,
But that's gonna be mixed
That one's
residential.
gonna be a mixed use. The other two are gonna be strictly apartments.
So don't you think if they came to Litchfield and saw that big parcel there, they would wanna do the whole thing there too?
Londonderry's right off the highway.
Londonderry is right at the intersection.
The airport's right there.
With the parking
right
lot.
there.
Easy to get to,
Pushing it out.
yeah, right off 93.
And they got sewer and water.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, and all the light pollution you can stand.
Yeah.
Well, not by the orchards, right? They
They
do,
got sewer and water.
by the orchards too?
Come across underneath.
Londonderry.
Just to give a brief overview of what some of the other communities in the area do, the majority of towns in the region allow multifamily in their ordinances currently. I cannot name one that does not in the surrounding area. So Litchfield is among the minority right now.
Are they overlays or are they zoned that way?
So you can do it in multiple ways. So some communities allow multifamily as a permitted use in the underlying zoning district. So Londonderry is an example, Milford would be an example, and Bedford would be an example. There are other communities that allow multifamily as an overlay. I believe Pelham and Wilton are also overlays.
Hudson, at one time, yeah.
Hudson, I'm trying to remember off the top of my memory. I'm not recalling whether Hudson's an overlay or just permitted by use in the underlying zoning district.
Most towns
So-
allowed it, multifamily in the zoning in the 80s, okay?
Yes.
We, Litchfield, decided not to do it,
Right.
okay? But they allowed it in the zoning, so they were somewhat ahead of the block. But this regulation that we're talking about is something going after towns that are not allowing it,
Right.
okay? trying to why push it all to this town when you gotta share the responsibilities? That's what it boils down to. I know. It is. Corporate line is just a line.
So if I could propose one way to help get the word out, if you all could help get the word out, I think beyond the different ways that the board can put it in the newspaper, put it on cable access, put it on the town website, put it on the social media sites that you have. I mean, those are the mechanisms you've already utilized at some point along the way. The other thing is just folks talking to their neighbors and just helping to spread the word. And that's one of the biggest ways it can help.
May I ask one more question that doesn't have anything to do with the apartments? It's on the southwestern commercial district, and it talks about, this is the change, permitted uses, the large regional shopping type uses such as department stores exceeding a footprint of 20,000 square feet are not permitted. But I have a trouble visualizing 20,000 square feet, and I don't want to tape measure and go measure somebody's building, but do you have an example, either in this town or an adjacent town, of a building 20,000 square feet?
I think New England Small 2 is, their
9,000.
footprint was what?
9,000.
So if you double the footprint of the Small 2, that is 9,000 as a footprint.
That's just their portion of
Right.
that.
Oh, yeah, but the total building, they have
It's close to
70% of the
18,000
building.
or something like that, 12 to 15, 18,000.
So it's a little bigger than that total building,
So it's a little bit bigger than that.
than that total complex, not just.
If you look
the-
at 20,000, it's 200 by 100. That's-
Yeah, I know, but I thought
Not a
that
very big
building would be, but that's a good example.
It sounds bigger than it is.
Yeah, it does sound
Yeah.
big, but when you look at that
We
building.
thought the same thing.
What's the size of this building, Kevin?
This right here is 5,000 some odd square feet, it's 65 or 75 by 100
Well, it's
plus.
4 times the size of this building, basically.
Now, the 20,000 square feet, that's ground footprint.
That's the footprint, not the
That's ground
inside.
footprint, that's not to say you get into 2 stories, okay?
But we have a height restriction too.
Well, that's 35 feet, because when we're going to 24, the ladder's gonna go that high.
Need a new
The
truck.
NFPA doesn't allow the guys to do 35 feet.
Yes, sir.
I have to ask, as a board, are you all in favor of this
Yeah.
proposal, unanimous
Yes.
in favor?
I think that will be determined when there's a vote taken to send it to public meeting.
There you go.
There may be some differences.
We were just saying last time, I don't forget what it failed by, but it failed by a smaller amount than I thought it would last time. I think we're just saying it's getting closer each time. I think as more people, if it's on the ballot every year, because it has to be until something's done, I think more people get educated on it. But
Also,
it
as we-
was only a couple hundred votes overall, I think it fell by.
Yeah. And with the board constantly working on it,
Yeah.
based on public input, it's become a much better ordinance than it was when we started.
Be curious the history of it though.
Word the multi.
How is the warrant worded? Did you read it? Did you read it earlier? Are you in favor?
I was gonna ask,
blah, blah, blah?
is that lawyer written that there's certain ways it has to be presented? Because it does not, it's not user friendly.
Most warrants are.
But you really can't change that, I don't think.
You can't editorialize on the ballot.
No.
You can't say this is the
It
greatest
has to
But
thing.
you
be
can
really
put in
like,
layman's terms more than it is
You
already.
can't do that.
No.
That wouldn't stand in court, that would be thrown out.
Right.
Yeah.
But you can in the paper right before you vote, which is the last thing you read.
Well, it's a control thing. Do you want the town to control the decision, or do you want the state?
I wish you could put that in a ballot, but
And
you
that's a
can't.
really good point.
we did,
Because that would pass.
Letter to the
I would
editor.
hope.
Can't do
Right.
that.
we do have comply with state law. Provide opportunities as required by law. So that part is in there twice.
You can't put a penalty in there though.
See, the thing is, in my opinion, it hinges on this reasonable test, right? Because everybody's definition of reasonable is different. So when someone says, have we reasonably provided for this, right? I can sit here and make a case that we have not, because I would just get all the meeting minutes and all the meeting footage and say, look, they're talking about making it difficult. That's not reasonable. You see? So, unfortunately, there's no right answer, really, until it's tested. A lot of things in New Hampshire are built that way. We can pretend to believe what we want to believe and talk ourselves into it. But when the person is told no, they'll say it's not reasonable and take it to court, regardless. So,
But if nothing's in the books, then you're going to court no matter what, so you
And
better
that's kind of the
have
point.
something,
so
which is the purpose of it, to at least have a benchmark for it.
You're
How many
also
years in a row
based
has it
on-
been on the ballot? Is it,
It was only on last
That wasn't on the year
year.
before?
It wasn't
Okay.
the year before. The board had a draft, took it to hearing, but didn't move forward with it at town meeting.
so when's the last time it was on the ballot besides last year?
Just last year.
No, but it hidden, in the past, we've never had it on the ballot at all?
No.
Okay. So it's been discussed in town before, but never has gone that far?
Right.
But I think when you overlay existing districts and say, don't worry because you're already developed and we're just doing that to show that we did something, I think you raise the anxiety in these neighborhoods, so they may not want to trust you, you know?
Yeah.
That's the downfall of that kind of strategy.
If I can say, I mean, my understanding of what you've done is by drawing the boundaries as you have a broad mix of parcels. Some are already, a lot are already developed. However, by having those larger bounds, you are pulling in many parcels that do have potential. Now, the specific analysis of those individual parcels, you can't do going into this. It's unreasonable for a board to go into each individual parcel and do a development potential analysis of every individual parcel included within a regulation, which is why we do the rough numbers, just to say, what do we have, just in rough, crude numbers. So that's why, you do it that way. The other thing is again, to the reasonable and realistic part, you do have many parcels, while they are developed, they've been excluded. They may still have the potential to be subdivided. They may have the potential for the individual structure itself to be redeveloped and split apart into 2 or 3 units. So what you're doing is you're creating a lot of opportunity and feasibility, but also you're doing it in a way that thoughtfully considers your local character, which you have every right to do as a community, and make sure that what you're proposing is in balance with you as a community and your existing character and scale of development, but also recognizing you don't have water and sewer throughout town. And so there is some balance to that regard. So that's what I've seen in the last 2.5 years of trying to incorporate the many revisions and and redigitize boundaries as we think about new areas. So
And those areas we picked were from the surveys that came back. That's where people said,
yes,
the majority of the survey respondents, which was 200, was it 200 or 100?
it depends. You've done a
Well,
couple
the-
different versions of the
Yeah, but the
surveys.
one we,
Rough
The
numbers.
most recent
The
one,
one-
you had 127 respondents. The one before that, I think you had over 200.
so if you look at that, unless the same people did it twice, and then we did the Strawberry Festival where people filled them out there, another outreach, you're probably looking at a couple hundred ideas, and vast majority picked those 2 spots
Yeah.
to put it, so.
So you guys been selling, you've been trying it, or at least you got the input in your explanation in this. You can say, based off the 3 different things we've had, this is where the people have selected. So we've taken this and that, based off what we know about the land, you can look into those lots, put it on the map, saying, this is what's truly is available, these lots are just not available. Town owns some of them, okay? So you gotta take that out of the proportion right off the bat, unless they're in the money-making business. Again, I go back to that, okay? But some towns have sold lots, I've seen it.
But the number that you gave is a dangerous number to hear. Like if someone says,
That's a
how
big
many
number.
potential units can you put in at 690 or whatever it is,
That's gonna
even though
kill
we
you.
all know it's gonna be no more than 300.
That's a big number.
But I mean,
It's a
it's just
scary
Not
number.
realistic.
And it's not
I know,
realistic, but it's.
You almost have to have like 25 asterisks next to it, because it's just,
Exactly.
That's why there's a whole extra
All they're
paragraph
gonna
when
hear,
answering
all
that
someone's gonna hear
question.
is 690. They're not gonna hear
Exactly.
anything else we say.
Not
after
gonna hear the
690.
but.
Yeah.
But, right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Numbers, you shouldn't bring the numbers up.
Well, if someone asks, you gotta tell them.
Last hearing, we were told to bring the numbers up.
No, you gotta bring up the reasonable numbers based on, just taking the scope of what's there. This is not rocket science to take up this area, this area, get a quick number and go. Okay? But, because we know that we can subtract Weinstein Well, that's 25 acres. 20 acres on the other side. Can't do anything with this. That's all things we can just pick up and say, take that out of the whole loop and be realistic. I'm just trying to figure out how I got a hot tub on the second floor of the house that's 400 gallons, the floor is still standing. That was today's, wow. I've never seen that happen till today. No, wasn't you this time? Anything's possible, guys. The wind is a second.
So sticking with the multifamily overlay, is there any more public comment on this topic? Anyone wish to share anything before we close the public hearing? Any concerns, comments, questions? Well, thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you.
Really, really appreciate your input. It's been a great hearing.
Good point, I mean, really some good points.
You're gonna be a busy man.
So with that, I will close the public hearing. Folks, tell your friends and neighbors about everything you've learned here this evening. Stay involved, stay engaged.
I don't have any friends. Let's glitch in the news. What did you read last week in the front page? What did you
What are your enemies?
Read the paper? Voodoo.
Put in a plug for alternates. That was on there.
I lived in this town.
It's all about words. If you could put this in the thumbs up, Karen Joy, people will read it.
That's right.
Oh, there we go.
They're next to me, they'll be sure to see it.
Yeah, get it, put it
Yeah,
in.
thumbs up with the town of Litchfield.
Can you give me some
Planning Board
input on
trying
short
to
writing skills?
Comply with New Hampshire state law.
There you go, that's good.
Thumbs up to the planning board for trying to comply with state law.
See you later.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Good night. Thank you very much for coming.
Do you have more to discuss, or are you done?
We're going to deliberate now. The public hearing portion is closed. But thank you very much for coming out this evening.
If you don't, I'll hang around. Yeah. Not a question. Oh, part two? Yep.
Love getting a crowd in this room and getting a discussion going like that. It's a hearing right on the very edge of being out of control, but a lot of useful stuff came from that. Okay, it was a little beyond the edge of control. But look how much useful feedback we got. I love that. So now, the real work begins. The agricultural overlay, not the, oh, I'm sorry,
No.
is tabled. The Aquifer Protection District.
Good recovery.
Where did I put it? I had it open. This is our last chop to make any changes, isn't it?
And they can't,
Can't make any change.
We can't make any changes.
no.
Okay,
I think you can,
Oh, you didn't make changes.
you can correct grammatical things.
but not substantive.
You cannot correct substantive.
Thank you. That's why I asked the
Change
question.
substantive.
Just stuck with the ordinance the way it is.
I don't think it's stuck.
Huh?
That's stuck. It's a good thing, right?
Depends
Yeah.
how you view it. I'm just saying, if you
I'm
wanted to
stupid.
make changes, then you're stuck.
Correct.
It's imperfect as any proposed ordinance would be, but it's
It's a
pretty
lot
good.
better than it was.
Right.
It's a funny comment about the gravel, though, because, I mean, if you think what gravel is,
What's funny is.
it's not, I'm not a construction guy, but it just kind of,
You know,
What's impervious, okay?
yeah, I know.
I have to,
Rather than an
I didn't
example, but
put
it's also-
acres with spaces.
Yeah, it's
to make
also an
it
example.
impervious.
well, yeah,
Yeah.
that says gravel, and then you use
It's
it.
the terminology.
You could put
Right.
weed block things down under
So-
your mulch, and that's impervious.
Exactly.
Yeah, so you've got so getting, at what Jason's commenting on about, the gravel surfaces being in there twice. You got it in there saying that when it comes to regulated surfaces, when it comes to regulated substances, gravel is not impervious. Your regulated substances, your toxic chemicals can seep through that gravel and contaminate your groundwater. So in those situations, it doesn't. Now, the last sentence is examples of. And to that degree, I mean, I would, and your piece of being able to work with it, having worked with folks at DES who were reviewing shoreland applications and actively utilizing this definition, if you can show and demonstrate that that gravel driveway can infiltrate water, great, then it's not impervious. But it comes down to prove it.
Frozen ground,
Huh?
frozen ground.
Well, you know what? Frozen ground, everything's impervious, you know?
For a
Yeah.
while.
So,
So that changes.
There's a definition of impervious, water pours through.
Yeah.
There's many different levels of impervious. The
There's a
DES
breeze.
uses certain ones, certain locations close to such and such. Okay? Generally speaking, in your house that you're gonna use, I got a 75-foot buffer now, and a lot of stuff. Lawns can be considered impervious to a degree. Okay? That's a big thing. Okay, so.
that's not in the examples.
Right, oh my God, okay, 'cause that would kill Litchfield.
And we're stuck with it, so.
Okay, so guys, I'm gonna use logic, okay? We'll go back and again, review this as a design, because you're only allowing 30% of a 1 acre lot to be used. Okay? We'll have them put a tennis court in. All these things, okay? Take these homes, most of my house lots are 1.3 to 1.5. Some has got wetland, some has got buffer. You can't use this stuff, okay? That, each lot is different. Every situation is different. Guy puts in a pool around his a deck around his pool, pervious or non-impervious. There's a deck that has to be such, okay? Okay, your concrete, some are stone, very few are. None be practical because it affects the liners, okay? Then they get into patios and all kinds of other stuff. Those can be made pervious by spacing them a little bit. That's it. Or we get sponge rock. Pumice. Another thing, I wouldn't require a homeowner to get a design to tell me if the gravel's gonna be impervious. I wouldn't go to that extent to anybody. Guys, you're safe.
So the question before us is, do we table it or send it to the voters?
Have a vote, right?
I'd say send it to the voters.
Most wooden decks allow the water to go through, to the gravel below, sand, so it's impervious.
Yeah.
Make a motion to send the Aquifer Protection District to the ballot.
I have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor, please, oh, wait, I'm sorry. Jason, you're our alternate this evening, would you like to be a voting member?
I'm planning to abstain on because I wasn't here for the full conversation, so trying to get to speed.
Okay,
So I just don't feel comfortable saying I'm for or against it till I really look into it, so if I am, I'll be abstaining, so
All right.
if you'd rather have a 3-0 vote, you go right for it.
I think I would.
Okay,
I'd like to have your abstention,
yes,
so we have an impaneled board.
Yep.
Thank
Okay.
you. So, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Oppose? Abstain?
abstain.
Motion carries 4-0-1. Thanks, I didn't mean to put you on the spot.
No, I was gonna explain it in a minute anyway.
Smart move. This way you jump on the right shit at the right time.
Hey, you know.
No, it makes sense. We weren't here for the discussion.
Yeah.
Right.
There's a lot of questions I have that I'm not
Exactly.
gonna rehash.
Moving on to the non-residential zoning amendments. Concerns, questions, criticism, comments? Conversation?
I make a motion to move the non-residential zoning district amendments to ballot.
Second?
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Opposed? Abstained?
Okay.
Tom, you get the next one, Tom.
That passed 401. I'll look around and count, see how many people I have. Not that quick.
Donna's got it.
Yeah. And finally, the multifamily overlay district. What do you guys think?
Come on, Tom, you're next.
I think we should find some way, I know it's late in the season, but I think we should try to get another flyer out or something, explaining it a little better, and try to find a better way.
Tonight,
I'd like to sit down with Kevin, because I do have some time to do it, go over the maps, look at some of these areas,
deal with Jen.
and get a little better definition of it. So if people ask, we do know a little more information for them. Like I said, I don't want to cut it up, chop it up, but if we can get an idea of what we do have,
Potentially is available.
then,
In a flyer, can we be more straightforward in layman's terms? And if you don't do this and we get sued, it could cost a lot of money, we go to court and you'll win eventually because we bid.
We can say that.
Okay. I mean, you need to be that straightforward, because if I read this, I would have been lost. So,
Yeah.
I mean, we,
The only caveat is you've got to be totally unbiased and just state fact.
oh yeah,
yeah.
this could happen.
You
If,
can't spend public money to
Lobby.
lobby.
but I think when you cut the if this then that scenarios, because that's fact, that's not.
You can say state law says this, this happened in Wyndham.
And the result was what?
Permit.
Yeah.
Yeah. The flips.
Examples. There's examples out there of the suit, Chester.
The flip side is you don't want to say our zoning practices are illegal.
No.
You could say that.
I don't,
I think it's non-compliance, a better way to put it.
yeah. I mean, it's gotta be,
To drive greater compliance with existing state law, here's what the planning board has worked on.
or to comply with state law, it's,
This is not something we jumped into neither, Jen. This is something that worked for a while, you know.
I know, but you don't, you wanna, I mean, it's been said enough times here this evening, but, I mean, you don't wanna say, we don't comply, come sue us.
I can tell you what that does. Jen knows what that does. I said it in a court case back about 10 years ago. I went into the meeting among the attorneys, the selectmen, and everybody else, and as the zoning person, I stated what I thought was true, that we are gonna lose because of this, this, and this. I got written up for it, because I should not have said the truth politically, okay? I got written up. 6 months later, after the court was done, we lost, based off all the things I said. And the reason why they wrote me up was because it's a litigation. But that's the common sense, that's what you play with, okay? So, it's a game. Guys, you can promote as a board what you want, okay? That's what you're here for.
I think we can move it forward and give it our best effort. So that's all anybody can ask.
Yep.
I make a motion to move the multifamily ordinance to ballot.
Second?
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain?
Abstain.
Motion carries 401. To ballot. Well, that was easy.
We're gonna send the questions to Jason tomorrow.
So Jason should have them, but, so the deadline for submitting warrant articles is tomorrow.
Right.
So being prepared, we've gone, Russ and I and Joan and Jason have gone back and forth with, town council, did a first draft, sent it to town council, council reviewed it. They chopped a lot out of what I had written for
Pages.
the non-written, it's not 6 pages, it's 2.
The ballot itself.
I know. The trick with the non-residential changes is there are so many small changes that to be forthcoming in what those changes are, it creates a rather long article. And to chop more of it out, you end up with something so vague that the voters may not know what they're voting for. So what is here is the best chopping down that we could get working with council. So what's posted up on the Google site for a draft is the last draft as of 4:30 this afternoon, working with council. So the first two are pretty straightforward and short. You know, there's the aquifer piece, pretty short. The multifamily,
Is that under the hearing category?
I think the most recent, easy to access one is in an email that Jen sent out this afternoon.
it didn't go to the full board.
Oh,
That
it
was
didn't.
just to you and council.
Second option.
Okay.
Yeah, because I have it.
I spoke too soon.
Yeah, under deliberative session. Revised down here. So if you want to further revise what's in the warrant, language, we can. We'd have to get it to council first thing tomorrow morning and to Jason tomorrow, for posting, but we're kind of caught in deadlines.
You were going for it right away. You were going for the last second. It's like a cramming for an exam.
It's more exciting.
Well, with
that
having
way.
the hearing, because tonight was the last possible night you could hold the
Exactly, you were
hearing.
cramming for the exam.
So, it was maximizing the board's time.
How different was that verbiage on multifamily than last year?
It's virtually identical. The
Yep,
change
look familiar.
is, that's
Where?
not the right file. That changes the district boundaries. That's it. This is identical language to last year with the change being to what the district boundaries are. That's it.
That's got a lot of it in it.
Hmm?
So that's got a lot of it in there.
Mm-hmm.
So,
What it is that you gotta give them, like any other regulation or zoning thing, there is the article. Well, what does the article mean? Reading it sometimes is not exactly. So you give them
Sentence.
handouts, you get them ready, that's all promoting or explaining it better.
The sentence
Someone with the
is
school
actually
children.
redundant.
Jen, could that whole article be sent out the way it's written?
Yeah.
Just so people have a chance to look at it beforehand?
Yeah.
I mean,
You don't have time, guys, to send it out and review
well,
it.
no, I meant on,
Educational.
As a PR item.
That's fine.
Uh,
yeah,
I mean,
Maybe that goes in the flyer that we send home.
Yes.
Or- yeah.
And but you gotta explain. your
Explain it
explanation.
afterwards.
Your explanation's part of it
Yeah.
first. Setting it out now, it's gonna just put up a crutch to me, 'cause it's just saying
Put
something.
explanation on the top and this on the bottom, because
Correct.
it reads the
Yeah.
bottom first.
I'm only saying because it is intimidating for somebody to go into a booth with that.
Yeah.
Wait till they go to the booth with 3 articles, it's almost a ballot itself.
Right.
And you wanna give them something like, some used to, Hudson Litchfield used the ballot,
The sample ballot.
Frank, the sample ballot.
Yep.
Okay? Can you put explanations in the sample ballot? So it's not called promoting, it's explanation that you, the board, can say what the intent and purpose is and stuff like that, and they'll understand it better.
Just gotta be careful with language.
You can do it on a real ballot now, too. State law has changed
That's
to allow that. But trust me, you don't want to start adding more.
No. Put more words on it, then it's gonna walk away.
I'd actually, kind of rereading, recommend just dumping this one sentence. It repeats the same. Add this to provide an opportunity and comply with state law. The purpose is to provide opportunities and comply with state law.
You said it twice.
We really mean it.
We do. That's right.
Really?
We don't have to say it 2 times.
Is that reinforce it, because that's the easiest to understand sentence in the whole thing.
I know. Okay.
I don't know.
Repeat it.
And then you don't have
Yeah.
to get rechecked.
I'll have my 10-year-old read it and see if he understands it.
Huh?
I'll have my 10-year-old read it and see if he understands it as a barometer.
Yeah.
He could explain to me. No, I think have it twice. I mean, it just I mean, that's the main point of it.
Sure.
So.
Or you want to bold it.
Yeah.
Bigger font.
Change the
Put in
font.
25 font.
All right.
Make it red.
Flashing.
I mean, we're using the whole page in the ballot anyway, so you might as well finish what's left of the page.
Right, fill
Will
it
it
in.
italics that in ballot, or you gotta be in a font position legally?
How about we just,
I don't know. I don't think you need to have a particular.
how about we just bold the required by state law?
And that'll get people to say, I'm not letting the
It's
state tell me what to do.
So,
I know.
That's right.
Why don't you both comply with New Hampshire state law too? So
Hey,
then
guys, this is easy. What you go to worry.
comply with New
else
Hampshire
if
state law.
the Code change is gonna kill you.
Apply. Required. Boom, boom.
Okay.
This poor kid's gonna go.
I don't know that the
Students,
That'll,
bolding works.
look at the.
Was, sorry, going backwards. Bit on aquifer look okay?
yeah.
All right. Yeah. Sorry. Okay.
Gotta make you laugh.
You do make me laugh.
So multifamily look okay? With the bold?
With the bold.
I'll leave the
It is
bold.
what it is. It explains what it's gonna do.
That's right.
So,
Let the lawyer take the bold out if the bold has to come out, but
I already looked at it.
yeah.
They already looked at it. They don't care about, I don't know, they didn't say anything about formatting. They're just worried about the words. So the commercial piece was the one that I grappled with the most. And just trying to be specific about what exactly is changing. This is more specific though than the notice went out for the hearings. The notice for the hearings is much more in layman's terms, and much more generalized. So,
See how long that was again?
well, here, I just got rid of the, because it splits onto the next page. Yeah, it's long.
Well, it's doing a lot, so it's long out of necessity.
I mean, I can't see it being chopped anymore.
Yeah.
no, you can't. You lose some of the. You lose some of the items they have to be in there.
My fear is that you've got a lot of very thoughtful work that you've done, and that someone's going to look at this and go, "Oh my word, no," and not even read it.
Yep.
You split into two.
You can only, like, over a couple of years, but.
Yeah.
Well, but, oh, and you mean paragraphs?
No, can you make it two different
good
warrant
question.
articles? And then you could, so it's not as much verbiage in one?
The north side and the south side?
Yeah.
No.
What if one passes and one doesn't then? Then you have issues.
Well, you could,
You just split
Plus you
zoning.
had that 408 that applies to everything.
yeah, but hold on. You could split with the boundaries.
Correct.
You could do this as all the little changes, and this is the boundary changes.
So then it's not as enormous in your face.
But then what if one passes and one doesn't?
If we noticed it as one thing for a hearing, can we break it apart for the warrant article?
That's a good question.
I'm in favor of leaving it as it's
Yeah.
written right now.
You're just gonna have to work on the selling feature.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, because you wouldn't have a separate vote. It was,
Simplified handout. This is the legal term.
Yeah.
This is what it actually does.
Yeah.
The handout.
Here's what it'll say in your ballot. Here's what it means in layman terms.
Short terms, thumbs down, thumbs up.
If we can get it, Jen, like that, so I can, something that we'd hand out,
Yep,
or like give to the seniors,
yep.
the centers, distribute that way
Have something that you can distribute at deliberative session.
as well, yeah.
Alright. Okay. Alright,
Ironically. we're going
So
to
leave
start
it-
Housing.
hmm?
We'll talk later.
multifamily's gonna look awesome next to this.
Yeah, definitely good
Or a second.
for it.
I put the long one last.
Yeah.
That was more my, alright, these are easy to write. This one I was like, oh, I'll put that one on.
Multifamily is the most complicated explanation
For the simplest thing.
for the simplest thing because of the word multifamily. Okay?
You got it, Kim.
That's it.
You got it. You ain't gotta sell it to us, man, we know. Multifamily's a tough word, buddy.
I thought it told.
What else are you gonna call it?
You said
Jen, could we get a handout with all three of those on it
I'm gonna kill a tree.
Yeah,
for delivered and for the ballot
yes,
election?
yes. If I do it black and white, I can just email
Yeah.
it over and you guys
Well,
can
yeah.
make your own copies?
Yep.
Okay,
That way, I think that would work out.
okay. Would one of you be willing to review that draft before? Cause I'll draft it,
Could
but,
you send it to Russ and I?
yep,
And we'll take a look at it?
Sure.
All right with you?
Oh, yeah.
See, I'm volunteering with you.
I was gonna point to you.
I figured both, the two of us look at it and,
Send to me too, I'll take a look.
okay. Alright.
Would it make sense to distribute to the board as a whole and just take feedback from any members who have concerns?
What a deadline.
Well,
The deadline.
no, the deadline's not what concerns me, cause I'll do this
It's having too many cooks
This
in the
week.
kitchen.
It's your statutory definition of a meeting and your right to know law issues. So I am happy to send it to everyone on the board, but if you have concerns, don't hit reply all.
Right.
You have to, you can tell me you have concerns with the draft and you can direct me as your staff person to make revisions.
And distribute the
but
revisions out.
we can't
But-
distribute them.
Right.
But you need to have the chair be the one who, after the meeting, is the one who, as a one-on-one communication says, has that review, ongoing communication, or the chair can designate and say, Tom, you as the vice chair, please take on this responsibility for me. And then it's the one-on-one communication to
No
move.
sequential conversations. It all just,
Yeah.
it would just be for comment. If you got no comment, say I got no comment. And if you got
Yeah.
comment, it all goes to the chair and that's
Yep.
it.
But then that has to kind of come back at the next meeting and anything that any comments that were submitted need to be at least acknowledged on the record at the next meeting.
All right, so just send it to me and Tom. It's just easier.
They should always go to the chair or
Yeah.
vice chair.
Of course.
And-
I just didn't want to exclude
Yeah.
the board if the board had any interest in participating.
No, I think you would just submit it for informational purposes only.
Okay?
This has to be done tomorrow morning, you know.
No, the warrant's all set,
Tom's got
right?
plenty of time.
This is the
Self.
Wake up early,
This
right?
is, yeah, the PR
Plan.
piece,
Okay.
cell piece.
Did you vote on it yet?
No.
Not next. This is all talk after.
Make a motion to send the zoning amendment questions to the, for ballot.
Why don't you just do that?
Well, you did the,
Individually.
I don't even think you need to vote this, basically.
no, you don't, you just have
The
to bless it.
attorney put it together, and if you're making changes to it, the attorney's gonna have to re-review it.
I like the bold.
Yeah, I'm
I
satisfied
will
with all
make
the
that
language.
recommendation.
I like the bold.
Rest is, I mean, it's the information. How else can you do it?
And even as wordy as the non-residential is,
It's
it gets
28
all of the good information that the voter needs in front of the voter to make an informed decision.
Right. It's a 28-page document deciphered into one run-on paragraph.
Pictures.
Pretty impressive, actually.
Pictures,
Can't do any better. than
pictures define, just taking the zoning districts and you just label the dead spots along it that you can't do nothing with. This is just an overlay with that alone as a picture is a good 5-second thing.
That was another question. Do you want a large, for deliberative, do you want like a large map of what's proposed
I think that would be
for
beneficial.
district boundary changes?
It'll go on the overhead in the,
But in addition to that, I think at the back of the room, where all the handouts and everything will be
Yeah.
tabled,
So people
have
can
that
see
map
it.
so they
yeah,
can point
put
them.
it in.
People who go to the delivery station don't have computers. The older folks.
What I'll do is just essentially, grab the maps. These ones, I'll just put it together, it'll be the whole town. But it'll be, because these are just screenshots.
Is it worth doing what Kevin said for the multifamily and put big black dots in the multifamily area where it's not even feasible because it's town-owned land, or is that just being too
No,
transparent?
I think to do it accurately, you're looking at
A lot of work.
a lot of work.
It's just gonna be a rough idea.
But Kevin knows all the pieces of land in town, so.
Yeah, but the thing is, it's just gonna have a rough idea of what we have, not exactly pinpointing it.
Being optimistic.
Yeah.
You know, one of the-
I think this is owned by this,
one of the things, if you look in close here, that we do have that we can display is these are actual building footprints. So just displaying the building footprints show your areas that are developed versus undeveloped. And that helps give a feel of potential versus lack of potential.
Yeah, it's a useful feature to include.
Yeah, but if I was gonna spend that kind of money into building something, I'm buying that property up anyway. You're tearing it all down.
Wow.
If you're buying it big.
Let them know what's there to be torn
No,
down.
no, I know.
Yeah.
Realistically.
So we're comfortable with the language, we can send this forward.
Mhm.
I think we've done everything we need to do on all of that. Wow, moving down the agenda. Moose Hollow Road update. How are we making out, Joan?
After we got the right address, because the address on their website isn't right, I sent it out again January 8th. I've heard nothing.
Seasonal vacation.
I spoke with Amos in January 8th and told him the letter was coming, got the right address. Still nothing.
I got his cell phone, I can call him.
Call him right now.
Did you get any feel for what his intention was based on the conversation you had with him?
Was there on the letter, was there a date, if you don't respond with this date, then we go to X, or
Go to what?
whatever the next step is without him?
We didn't tell him what the next step would be. First, we said January 7th, then when I resent the letter, I told him the meeting was tonight, and the item would be discussed.
So he received it on the 7th?
Probably received it the 9th.
9th?
too.
Did we receive back the,
Well, I didn't send the second one certified,
oh, okay.
just the one that went to the wrong address. It took a long time to tell us it went to the wrong address. So I had looked it up and then called
Strategy.
it.
You one of the 90 people that didn't get their mail this weekend?
Yeah.
I was happy. It just comes with bills. Okay.
We'll go to one more meeting and see if he responds by then. It's only been
Do you want to
12
try giving
days.
them a call?
I think we'll do two things. I'll give him a call, and I'll also send him the certified letter. We'll get that out there, so we have the card back acknowledging that he did receive our correspondence.
Okay.
That way we've got that. If we need to, I hate to say, if we need to build a case to do something additional, at least we have,
Yeah.
Proof he received it.
we have all the
Would you
pieces.
object if I called and with Joan and sit down and say, look, the board wants you to build something, get back to them? Sometimes a little help.
That's a good idea.
Outside world is always good.
Seems to be willing to talk to Kevin.
Yeah, somebody's
Great.
love talking to me. I've been dealing with Amos since 1980, when he worked for Amos White and Ashwood Homes were together. They were partners. So then, he seemed to be, he's not a bad guy. He's one of the better ones.
Yeah.
Okay, and he's responsive. A little, I would say reluctant sometimes, but you push the buttons, they'll come.
Okay. Yeah, if you don't mind, please
I got
do.
no problem being
Right, we'll try
on
it.
contact, you know, make a phone call, Joan and I will sit down, because I think the crutches is we want a game plan of what's gonna happen
Yeah, exactly.
with the road next year, bottom line.
That's
the
what we
game
told them
plan.
in the letter, yeah.
And the two things was finishing the road and the cul-de-sac.
Yep.
Those are two issues, that was it. Okay, and we'll bring it in, because our engineer has already got the booty that we need on that. He's already got the report, and we can put that together with it.
Yep.
Okay?
Yeah,
I
I'd
have no
be grateful for
objections
that.
doing this kind of stuff. Supposed to be, because I got a building permit out there, and they're gonna wanna know when they're gonna plow the road, these people too. I get the calls. You know, somebody hit a mailbox, it wasn't our plow. You know, all these things come into play. Fixed one today that we needed some duct tape.
Okay, let's try that.
Say, guys,
Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you.
tomorrow, we'll talk more about wiring and stuff like that.
I'll be
When I
after
get a
dinner.
chance. I'm busy in the morning, got a lot of little things going on.
Give me a call.
Okay, we'll go from there. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. Good night.
You're welcome.
All right, so we'll go,
Excuse me.
let Kevin make the first contact. And we should resend the certified letter, just so we have that document trail. So we'll run those two items in parallel. And at the next meeting,
Okay.
we'll come up with a final strategy of how to approach it.
Okay.
Which brings us to the next agenda item. Deliberative session speakers. Board of Selectmen has set the date for deliberative as February 1st, 10 a.m. at Campbell High School.
They'll be back,
I'll leave it inside here.
yeah.
We've got,
Not around that day.
we've got a few items that we'll need to present to the public at the deliberative session. You'll be there, right, Tom? Which items would you like to speak to?
Take the aquifer.
Okay, good. You feel brave, Jason? Not yet, huh?
Oh, I'm brave.
But what kind of chance do we have of getting stuff passed?
You know, cars all the way around it.
Hurry up, the girls wanna go, they want me to start their cars so they'll be warm and they get in it. It's starting to snow.
Okay. I guess it'll be you and I, huh?
Yeah,
We'll split
talk
up
to
the
Mike.
list. This is our last meeting before delivery,
Yeah, we'll
so
call Mike on the side and see if he's willing.
you wanna make contact with him and see if you
Yeah, give him
can
a call.
sweet talk him into
Yep.
getting up there? I don't mind trying to pitch multifamily. You've got
Just
aquifer.
say, you know, just do what's gotta be done.
Mhm.
So who's talking?
Tom will deliver the message on the aquifer protection over district. I'll deliver the message on multifamily, and that leaves the non-residential part up in the air. But that's easy. That should just pass. We shouldn't even have to talk to that, right?
If we have to, we'll do it together.
Yeah. It's a lot of words. Just click yes.
Yeah.
So tentatively, that is still open for anyone who wants it. If you'd like, Frank, we could get you some notes and let you
I'm
go.
probably gonna be stuck with some of the other stuff to present, I'm sure.
Stuck.
Yeah, stuck.
You guys only have a few.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's not much. Light load this year.
And I prefer to have, personally, somebody from the planning board should do it.
And we,
It's good learning.
yep, we're there. That's why we signed on for this, so we could stand
How
up on
about
stage
Jen?
in the auditorium.
She doesn't have anything to present.
Jen, are you available that day to provide backup for us? In case I stumble and need phone a friend?
First aid.
First aid, yeah.
As a general practice, I'm not your salesperson.
But you're so good. I fumble through this stuff. If you help me come up with a script or at least some talking points.
Yes,
Yeah.
I'm more than happy to help you be prepared. And put in kind of the staff time end of things. The only thing my child has is my husband's that day. So worst came to worst, if you absolutely needed me there, I could logistically be there. I don't, like Frank said, it needs to be you guys making the presentations. And it's better that you as the correct messenger do it and fumble than me get up there as someone who's seasoned, it's having to stand in front of people and talk and do it. So.
All right. So we'll work together as the days drag on to put together a presentation for me to deliver.
Right, so what you, I'm trying to remember who presented what at last year's. I think Mike did.
Mike Croto presented, I believe, multifamily.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I remember. So I remember, what Mike and I did after the planning board meeting, he and I quickly went through, what needed to be presented and what he wanted for, notes and how he wanted his notes organized. And I just did throw it together, typed it up for him, and organized it. I'm happy to do that again. So Russ and Tom, if you want to stay, I'm happy to take some notes for you so I can go back and draft it up as to what you would like for some speaking notes and PowerPoint. I will say we do still have the multifamily. There's very little changed. So, for that piece, I mean, you can reuse Mike's notes from last year, if you would like, if they work for you. And then also, we've got the slides from last year that were put together. You know, again, for the multifamily that works, that was the rezoning, a couple pieces. So for that, if you want me to throw some quick maps together that can go on a PowerPoint, I can do that for you.
Yeah, that'd
Just
be
to
great.
illustrate what you're talking about. For multifamily, you went through, what Mike did is he wanted to go through basically the what, where, when, why, and hows. So first thing he started with is why, required by state statute. That was his very first note he had. And then, you know, a couple other good reasons why. So then he had the where. So we had the overview and then with some zoom in. And again, overview and zoom in, so I can recreate these with the new boundaries. The how, just kind of getting at what some of those requirements were. What multifamily looks like. Russ, you had said you wanted to take some pictures of multifamily in town.
Yeah,
Swap out.
there's a few buildings in town that I think would be better examples, just because they're here locally and folks see them.
Last year there was concern on the impact to the schools. I don't think we've heard so much of that, but I mean, it's another thing just to kind of have on hand. There's a study out there that correlates, you know, housing development's impact on schools to the number of bedrooms, not the number of units in a structure. And that was it. That's what they had for a presentation for multifamily last year. The other piece was just that one that one area that was rezoned as residential. So, and that one was pretty simple.
Yep.
Slides.
I think I delivered the message on that one.
That could be. So I had, what you guys had me do was first put together just some bullets. So this was a multifamily bullets, and Mike had me put in what slide number each of the bullets correlated to. And then there was really just the one real slide on the rezoning, so it was just the one thing with a few bullets.
Seems like a good approach.
But again, I remember last year on the rezoning, you went through and kind of like quickly rattled off a few of the reasons why you had chosen to do the rezoning. And I think that was an important part of the communication.
Yeah. Yeah, let's freshen those up for this year and I'll run with them.
So you nominated Croto?
You can redo the multifamily there.
He is. He knows the material.
Hey, second time's the charm.
I'll see if I can get hold of him tomorrow morning.
I'll take the multifamily. And if he'd like to do the non-residential, otherwise you and I can work it between us
Yeah,
to
we can split it.
see what makes sense.
Yeah.
There we go, we've got coverage. Now, the snow date, should it be necessary, is February 8th. Is that right? Is it the 8th? It's the following Saturday. I will be out of town attending a convention in Florida, so
Unavailable.
unavailable. We do have a planning board meeting scheduled for the 4th. So if there's no deliberative session on the 1st, and we have our planning board meeting on the 4th, we can prepare for the deliberative that would happen on the 8th. But I won't be available on the 8th. Next item on the agenda is to approve the minutes from January 7th. The only thing I saw in those minutes, right up on page 1, was public input. No members of the public wish to speak at this time. I blew it and didn't call for public input. So I'd like to strike that line, please. I'm usually pretty good about this, and last meeting I was so anxious to get into deliberating
Yeah,
that
so
I...
we did have someone here.
We did have someone here. I know, and I felt terrible. After he left, it it occurred to me that I blew an opportunity to engage the public, and anyway, we should strike that. But I saw nothing else in the minutes that didn't look perfect.
I just fixed the spelling of my name.
Yep, yep.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry. Non-substantive. It's still a random grouping of consonants.
Make a motion to approve the minutes as amended for the January 7th meeting.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Oppose? Abstain? Motion carries 5-0-0. Is there any other business?
Like to take a couple of seconds.
Not business. Just the 2014 meeting calendar and submission deadlines are on your Google site and updated.
Thank you. Tom?
Just heads up, on last Thursday, I was at the State House testifying on House Bill 1573, which is to eliminate the RPCs in New Hampshire and to have all planning board members elected instead of appointed. It looks as if the majority of the people there were opposed to the bill. So I'll keep you informed as it goes on. And whether or not, you know, when they have the ballot, if it gets there.
Just to make you aware, the sequence of events that'll be followed is that they had a public hearing on that, they accepted input, and they will have what's called an executive session. The executive session is where the committee will vote the bill, and then it will go to the full House. So if you continue to look at the House calendar, you'll see that bill potentially come up in the next couple of weeks again, and that will be where the committee will vote the bill. Now, the committee, when they do their executive sessions, does not take public input. Okay, they only debate amongst themselves and then take and make a motion and vote the motion, when that is the motion that will go to the full House.
Now, is that an open session or
It's open, people can attend it, but
just can't?
the committee will not take any public
Right.
input. That was the opportunity given at the
Yep.
earlier meeting.
Is there any other business?
Hold on a sec. Will they take, once it goes to the full house, they take it, do they open it up then?
Well, you couldn't speak on the House floor if that's what you mean.
No, I didn't. Yeah, that'll end. I didn't mean on the house.
I mean, you can send letters, emails, or whatever to any of the committee members anytime.
Right.
Or any of the House members at any time. It doesn't mean
No
that you
communication.
can't do that. The only time it's a done deal is when the full House votes on it.
Right.
Potentially, then it could go somewhere else, who knows, depending on the track of the bill.
Any other business? Anyone? Anything, Joan?
Nope.
All right, so our next meeting will be February 4th. Deliberative session is February 1st. If there's nothing else, I would accept a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Abstain? Motion carries 5-0-0. Meeting adjourned. Thank you very much for joining us. Have a good night.